Hi students. So let's start with a new chapter called coordinate geometry. So what we study in coordinate geometry is to find the position of an object with respect to the x-axis and y-axis. Basically, this is to identify the location of the objects. Now, this can be a position here, it can be a position here, it can be a position here, or it can be a position here. To find the address for these different objects, different locations, we use coordinate geometry. Now, similar thing you will recall that you studied in geography, where we can identify the location of any object on Earth with respect to equator. And if you remember the longitudes and the latitudes, right? We give a location with respect to these axes across the Earth. Equator is that horizontal, your prime meridian is that from north to south pole, and then we say America or Washington DC is 30° east, 40° north, all that kind of position, location is the practical usage of coordinate geometry. Why geometry? Because when we know, say, these 4 points, and when we join them, we find in shape, and that is what we study. So this is the reason why it is called in total coordinate geometry. Otherwise, coordinate simply means finding the location of the objects and points. All right. So now, if this is the point in this quadrant, now there are 4 quadrants. Very simply, we can make out that this is the first quadrant, right, on the positive side, in the north. Then there is a second quadrant on the negative side of the x-axis, but on the north side. So this is second quadrant. Third quadrant is here, that entire plane, what you can see on the left side of the x-axis, but also on the negative side of the y-axis, right? So this is third quadrant. And the last is the fourth quadrant, where the x is the positive, but we are in the south direction. So this is negative, and this is called the fourth quadrant. So we have 4 quadrants, and any object anywhere can be given coordinates, can be given address. Let's understand how. For example, if in this first quadrant, the coordinates will be, say, x comma y. All the coordinates are represented by 2 numbers, x and y. What is x and what is y? X is nothing but the distance from the origin, which is represented by 0, 0, right? If you remember the number line, we represent it from the starting point. And then when we move right, we can give it positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, positive numbers. Similarly, on the negative side, -1, -2, -3, -4. Similarly, on the north side, +1, +2, +3, +4. Similarly, on the south side, -1, -2, -3, -4, and so forth. Now you will find it will be so easy to write the coordinates of any point in the entire Cartesian plane, right? This entire system is called the Cartesian plane. Okay, so now coming to the first quadrant, I have to find whether my x is positive or y is positive or negative. We have to find the sign. So very easy. In this case, x, which is the distance on the x-axis, will be a positive number. Why? Because all these are on the right-hand side are positive numbers. Similarly, if you see the y, which means the distance of this point on the y-axis, right? So this object is y distance, y distance on the y-axis and x distance on the x-axis. That is how we say the coordinate x comma y, and this is the meaning of the coordinate x comma y: x distance on the x-axis, y distance on the y-axis. Very simple, right? Now x technically will be called as abscissa. Don't forget this name, because entire exercise they will only use the word abscissa. X is abscissa. Y is ordinate, right? So y will be called ordinate. So when they say ordinate is 5, you know what they are talking about. They are telling that the point location is 5 units away on the y-axis. If they say abscissa are 3, that means 3 units away from the on the x-axis. And so they will write x and 5. For example, if this I have to write down the coordinates, I can see what is x. X is 3. So I will write down the x coordinate 3. How much is y? I can also see 3. So the coordinates of this point are 3, 3. And this is all. This is what we have to do. Now, let me make another point somewhere. Let me make a point here and ask you what are the coordinates of this point. I'm sure you can know that this is the second quadrant, but give me the coordinates. So you will say, let me find out how much it is away on the x-axis. I will see it is on the x-axis -3 away. So my first coordinate will be, or the abscissa will be -3, comma. Now I have to find how far it is away on the y-axis. It is far on the y-axis. If I can assume this as 2, so then it is +2 because all things in the north are positive. So this will be -3, 2. All right. Now let me take another point, say this point. And if I ask you the coordinates, it will be easy for you. You will find out how far it is on the x-axis. So this point is here. So the x-axis will be -2, right? This point is -2, not very clear in the diagram, but I'm sure you must be able to make out this is -2. So x-axis, it is -2. And on the y-axis, if you see, this is almost touching -2 here. So this coordinate on the y-axis will be -2 because it is in the south direction where we have all the negative numbers. Similarly, if I ask you the coordinates of, say, this point, and give me the coordinates, what is x? How much distance from the origin on the x-axis? This is actually 4. So I will write 4, comma, how much away on the x-axis? -3. So the ordinate will be -3. Now, just to remember, always note that any point on the first quadrant will have a positive x and a positive y. Any point in the second quadrant will have a negative abscissa or negative x-axis, negative x, and a positive y. Why? Because we are moving in the negative x direction, negative, left-hand side, all negative. Y, everything positive in the north. So any point in the second quadrant will have a negative abscissa, positive y. If I come to the third quadrant, you can easily tell me that x is also negative and y is also negative because we are moving in the left direction and we are going down south. So both numbers will be negative. The moment both numbers are negative, you can say it is in the third quadrant. And last, any number in the fourth quadrant will have a positive x, y, we are in the right side, and a negative y because we are going south. So this will be negative ordinate, positive abscissa. I hope I've been able to make you understand that all the points in the different coordinates have coordinates which are easy to find out by understanding whether the abscissa is positive or whether the abscissa is negative, simply whether the ordinate is positive or the ordinate is negative. Now, very important point, last point, but very important point, that it is not necessary that all the points are only the quadrants. There can be few points which can be on the axis itself. For example, if I ask you that tell me there is a point on here, what will be the coordinates of this point? It is neither in the first quadrant, neither in the fourth quadrant. Tell me the coordinates. Very easy. First, let me write down the coordinates of the x-axis. How far it is on the x-axis? Maybe this is 5 and this is 6. So I will write 6, comma. How far it is on the y-axis? It is not away from on the y-axis. So hence y is 0. So the coordinate of the point lying on the x-axis on the right-hand side is 6, 0. Similarly, if I ask you that this is the point on the left-hand side, what is the coordinate? You can now easily tell me it is -6, 0. -6. I mean, if you see this is -6, 0. Now, if I ask you any point on the y-axis, you can tell me now what is how far it is on the x-axis? 0. There is no distance on the x-axis. It is there on the y, which means no distance on the x-axis. So it will be 0. What is the y? Y is 5 here. So the coordinates of this point are 0, 5. Right? And similarly, in the south, if I say, what is this point? Then you can tell me that this is x-axis 0 and y will be -5. So this point is on the y-axis with the coordinate 0, -5. And this is the entire system of coordinate, on the Cartesian plane, how we can give coordinates to the different objects in the different direction, in the different location. And it's very easy because you know the positives and the negatives. It is just the technical words, abscissa and ordinate. What you have to remember, x and y, where is x, where is y, and just plot it. I think this is all a very important topic to begin with coordinate geometry, and this is what you have to remember. I hope you like this. See you in the next one.